Welcome to the live about the caregiver effect. I'm Tiffany Matthews, and I'm waiting for my dear friend Samantha to join me. Okay, still getting set up a little bit. You know these lives. We did it! Yay! We needed a win, right?
Yep.
I was just saying that we're finishing getting set up for the live, and I was waiting for you to join me. So here we are. How are you?
I'm hanging in. How about you?
I'll tell you one thing. I had to walk just to the store and back today, and I almost melted in a puddle of Tiffany because it is so hot. And then I went into a hot flash. It was just horrific.
You're like, Lord, come on, really?
I know one thing, and I said it to these guys as I was walking by. I said, I can't go to hell. I repent of everything. everything. The things I admitted and the things I did. I repent of everything. I can't do. No. So you out where you are on the West Coast, oh my God. I'm complaining. It's 100. It was 103 here yesterday, and I'm complaining.
No, that's bad for you. TK was telling me yesterday. She's like, yeah, she's in Jersey, and it's like, yeah, it's 100 degrees. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, girl. Like, we're used to the heat. Like, this is the norm for us. So this just, it doesn't faze us. But when you're not used to that heat, oh, it is brutal.
I thought I was just somebody was gonna have to absorb me up with a towel out there. It was just too much.
Oh.
It was too much. Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here to experience it all.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that you suggested this. I really am. Thank you so much. Really. And we can talk back and forth, I think.
Yeah.
If you want to lead it, go ahead and I'll answer, whatever questions. I really do want caregivers and families to benefit from this, along with the organizations who I want to work with to support them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll ask you questions about the flyer, and you take it from there and explain and share so that people kind of understand a little more about what it is you're doing and why it's important. And yeah, we'll just go from there.
Okay, honey, thanks. So go for it.
Okay. So, are you able to record?
I am. Let me see. You know what I may be able to do is screen record, but I think I have to get this screen larger first of all.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to. Oh, I hope I didn't do anything to mess that up. I think we're looking like it's a little small and people can't see us. Let me work that way. All right. Maybe if I can get. You know what? We went through this last time. I remember actually. This is a trick.
Yeah.
We went through this last time and we looked fine on the screen. So I'll just leave it and we'll go for it.
Okay.
Okay. So would you want to ask me or you want me to just start talking?
So are we recording?
I don't think so. Wait, the cloud record? I don't know. That part I'm not sure how to do. Let me see if there's a setting for that. I don't think so. I don't know. Let me try this. Hang on one second.
Sure.
I'm going to try and screen record and see how that works. You know, no matter what, it's always something with the tech with me. I'm telling you.
I
My computer was
understand.
working fine this morning. As soon as 12:40 came around, it wanted to lag and, not put the program on. Okay, I'm screen recording now. Hopefully that will work. But recording my screen, I'm going to record it exactly the way that it looks to me, like with all the dashboard stuff. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
Make sure. Wait, hang on one sec. Let me get the right angle for this. Okay, there we go.
Well, good
Okay, now
morning,
we're recording.
LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. I'm here with the wonderful and amazing Tiffany Matthews, and we are here to discuss the caregiver effect and the new series of events that Tiffany and I are going to be sharing with you that will help corporate caregivers and corporate leaders retain highly valuable and impactful workers who double as caregivers. And so, Tiffany, I would love you to share with us your strategy of helping caregivers with the caregiver effect.
Well, first, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate um, wanting to discuss the caregiver effect. I think it's really important to address caregivers at work, at home, and in the healthcare system. That's my mission with the caregiver effect. And I created that term because I didn't feel like anybody was seeing the intersection, excuse me, of caregiving, work, and healthcare. Every employer is affected. I don't care how small you are. I don't care how large you are. In fact, the larger you are, the more you're affected. Every employer has to deal with all three of those on some level. Now, with caregiving, we've got 73% of employees reporting caregiving duties according to Harvard. And we all trust Harvard, right, as a reputable source. 73%, that should stop anyone in the C-suite in their tracks. Wait a minute, we're not tracking this. We don't have anything to do with this. And caregiving also affects a lot of business initiatives and revenue drivers that they may not understand that there's a link with. That burnout may not just be work. It may be caregiving as well. Millions of people have a full-time job, then go home every day and take care of one, two, five people, which is definitely another full-time job. And there's no pay for that one. A lot of
Yes.
caregivers are moms, spouses, uh, kids and grandkids. I mean, in certain states, under certain circumstances, you can get paid to be a caregiver, but not often. So it's free, basically. And caregivers are responsible for $1 trillion of free patient care every year. This is how deep this runs. This is how immersed that businesses are, and most don't even know it. Most don't even know. Now, when it comes to work, that caregiving, of course, affects work. It affects productivity, burnout rates, retention rates, turnover rates. Let's see. Oh, not to mention losing minimum $5,000 every year per employee, not just the caregiving employees, every employee because of caregiving. Businesses lose 44 billion every single year. This is something that needs to be looked at and addressed. Now, as far as healthcare, caregivers are taking on a massive effort. It's love, it's noble, but it's stressful and overwhelming. And caregivers grieve every day. They grieve every day. Now, guess where all of that is going when they pack up their lunch and go to work? Right to work with them. It's going to affect their productivity. It's going to affect their time, leaving early, coming in late, not coming in at all. There's, I, I can't understand why executives and leaders aren't banging our doors down, trying to discover how caregiving affects this. So I tried to tie that up. I hope I did.
That is very insightful. I think as business leaders, we want to do our best to support our employees. We want to provide the supports that they need. And
Absolutely.
in my experience, it's not that employers don't care, it's just they're not aware of the
Right.
depth and the scope of caregiving because like when you're a parent, that's usually a minimum of an 18-year commitment.
Right.
And fortunately, most companies, while they've dialed in the caregiving side for childcare and things like that,
Right.
80% of employees who are doing elder care say that their employer are more amenable, more accommodating to childcare needs versus elder care needs. And
Right.
as you and I both know, having been family caregivers, that when you do elder care, it's not typically for short term, 2 months, 4 months there. It's 2 years, it's 3 years, it's 5 years, it's 10 years, it could be 20 years. You
Right.
don't know. And so, you've got people that, like in my situation, have both arcs that are caring for children and caring for aging parents. And so, you know, so many people are in my position or doing one or the other and then finish one kids and then they start take on elder care. And but like the other workers in the workforce, I enjoy working. I need the pay. My family needs that benefit. And workers have to figure out how do I balance that? How do I work a full-time job that's caregiving outside of work and still stay engaged in work, be productive, give my best to my employer because that's what I want to do, but then also give my best efforts to my family. So I think that's a really important point that you're bringing out is that, caregiving is affecting all of the workforce. All of us at some time will be called to get or give care. It's a universal experience. And so I think as you continue to educate leaders about the depth and width of the problem and that there are solutions. I'm looking here at your flyer, and it says that you offer executive briefings to employers so that they can understand what their problem is and how to address it. So you're recuperating those losses. You're increasing productivity. I'd love to hear about that. Tell me about those.
What I'm going to do next week, actually beginning July 6th, is offer free executive briefings every day from the 6th to the 10th at noon every day. And what I want to do is to bring leaders into the awareness that this is an issue. Many aren't even aware that it is. And then let them know, okay, this is your issue. These are the problems behind it. And as we both know, doing this every day, America is getting older. By 2030, there'll be more elderly people than people under 18. So as long as there's aging, as long as there's chronic illness, and that there will be caregivers, and as long as there are employers, you will have caregivers on your staff. You will have caregivers on your staff. And with caregiver health being stressed under the overwhelm, under the grieving every day, there's an increased chance for more issues or exacerbation of the conditions they have now. For example, that high blood pressure isn't going to get much better under caregiving. You've got to find a way to monitor it in order to do what you need to do. What I need caregivers to understand is they're the engine that makes this whole thing go. They really are. And many of them are just saying, oh, I'm just a good daughter or granddaughter or a good friend. No, you're a caregiver too. Adopt the mindset so you can get the help that you need to do caregiving and balance it at work and home. I feel that the healthcare system and employers are in the best position to do this because you spend 1/3 of your life at work. They have benefits for children, right? But why is that looked at in a better light than elder care? I don't understand that. It shouldn't be. Care is care is care. The time involved, the manpower involved, all of that. It's the same with elder care, if not more, because, bringing a baby is joyous. It's happiness. Caregiving for an elder isn't always happiness. It's grief every day. And as I said, they're bringing that grief to work. Meantime, trying to research a medication or get a doctor on the phone or trying to, fight that denied claim with the insurance company. It is just everything they're doing and taking on. They need more support. And as I said, I believe employers and the healthcare system are in a position to really help caregivers, and they can benefit as well. The only way that they're going to get their money back that they lose from caregiving is to support their caregivers at work. And that's what the caregiver effect will help do. So I'm doing briefings next week to make sure that leaders understand, hey, this is the issue. This is what's going to happen. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about solutions as well. And then, I offer caregiver effect services where I have executive workshops for leaders. And then I have employee workshops about caregiving and healthcare and aging and all different kinds of things. So I'm challenging employers, hey, ask your employees, see how many caregivers you got. Send out an anonymous survey. And I bet what you come back with will shock.
Oh,
Absolutely shock.
Yes, indeed. You brought up some really good points that I think are really important. And so I'm going to circle back to a couple of them.
Sure.
As a caregiver, when we step into the role, as you said, oh, I'm just a daughter or just a granddaughter or a neighbor helping a friend. Really what that is you are a person who is accustomed to being in academia or a corporate structure where before you got there were systems, processes, people, structures that were put into place that allow you to do your job and be successful at it. And when you step into the caregiver world, it's like you step into Siberia. There's nothing there. There's no help. There's no systems. There's no support. As caregivers, you are literally having to create that system, structure, support, people to help you from nothing. And so when an employee becomes a caregiver, you can see why that's so stressful for them, because they're like, I'm used to having all these things in place that create the conditions, the environment for success. And now I'm going to something, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not a medical expert, I'm not a financial expert. And my loved one is counting on me to figure all these things out. Plus, create a circle of support around them and do all these other things that the caregiver themselves also needs. Like the caregiver needs that support. And so your corporate employer, they already know how to create systems, structures, place people into the environment that creates success. They've done it before, they can do it
Right.
again. For caregivers, they just need the right tools. And so, what I'm hearing you say is that you, as a business expert, are providing those tools, the assessments to figure out what the problem is, assessments to determine who needs help, and then to figure out the width and the depth of what they need help with. Maybe you have more employees that need help with elder care. Maybe you have employees that need more help with, disabilities, with young adults who their kids that have disabilities. It's a wide variety of things. And you and I both know caregivers will neglect everything of their own needs to meet their loved ones' requirements for care. So if you don't want your caregiving employees to be burned out, the employer can provide tools, systems, structures, help that helps keep that person both healthy and engaged at work, but then also tools that make them successful in caregiving. And so I love the approach that you're taking, because it's really a holistic solution. It's not just a break fix, or I'm going to fix one thing here, one thing there. This is a long term care retention strategy. I read somewhere that when a mid level executive leaves, which coincidentally, quitting for caregiving is the number two reason the companies lose leadership in their pipeline for promotions,
Mhm.
but that it cost 150% of that person's salary to find a replacement. So to me, the numbers clearly signal that what you are doing for companies makes both economic sense, but also from the standpoint of retaining great leaders, great workers who have industry expertise and relationships within that organization, but then in the industry that you cannot replace. What are your thoughts?
So it's so many caregivers have so many unique stories. You know, what may work for, caregiver A at ABC company may not work for caregiver B, C, and D. There's a lot of opportunity for employers to step up and say, okay, we need to remain competitive. We need to, start seeing a future where this is coming. The stats are there. The statistics are there. We're, you know, people who want to advocate for caregivers are screaming it from the rooftops. Hello, look at this. Pay attention. It's coming. You will be affected. We've been saying that for a few years now. I want employers to see this, because if they don't, they're not going to be able to remain competitive. Caregiving is only going to increase. We're losing healthcare personnel. Meanwhile, as I said earlier, America is aging. Who is that going to fall on? Families. There'll be even more caregivers that work for all of these different companies. And
Mhm.
they, as I said, they have an opportunity. I'll come in and we can talk about what the issues are, what they may see and what they don't. I've spoken to a few companies already that are ready to, they're saying, okay, this is an issue here. And, I've done some workshops and the content has been received so positively. They're like, okay, yes, employees are interested in this. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I'm so grateful for that. I really am, because that means, the issue is there and it needs to be addressed, and people are, positively responding to addressing it. So that means there's a big issue and it's not being discussed because, you know, people are afraid when they're at work, and they're caregivers. Say you're somebody that got out of college and you were on the fast track to CEO, and all of a sudden, mom has an accident, and it's a long-term accident. You don't want to lose the track at work, but it's your mom. So people have to make choices every day about that, employment versus caregiving. And, as we were saying a little bit earlier, caregiving wins most of the time. It just does. People leave in droves, from work to go and take care of their loved one. It shouldn't have to be a choice. And that's what I want to get in there and do. Okay, we'll talk about, we'll have some strategy talks. And then I have assessments, as we were talking about earlier. What's going on with your staff? How many caregivers do you have? Do you even know? What's it costing you? Policy and benefit reviews, all of those things, so that, you know, companies can quantify it. I have a 4-part framework for when I go into companies called discover, quantify, support, and recover. Discover means just what I was talking about, strategy and assessments. Let's find out what's going on. Then quantify. How much is what's going on costing your company? And I can give rough estimates, or we can get that down to the pennies. But what I guarantee is you weren't measuring it. Most companies are not measuring it. Some companies are even giving great caregiver benefits, but are they measuring the impact of it? So what I want to do is do that. And then support. Let's get in there. Let's support not only the employees, but the leaders in the organization as well. It's going to be a little bit of a culture change, but it's going to be a welcome culture change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I hear what you're saying. And maybe if I can kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I think as leaders, it's not that you don't care, it's that you were not trained to be ready to say, okay, I have the tools and the skills to identify this problem, to speak to the employees, and then appropriately support them. If you don't know that there's a problem, how can you be reasonably expected to address it? And I think a
Measure it.
lot of, or measure it, right? I think a lot of employers want to do right by their employees. They want to take care of their
Sure.
employees, and without awareness and, like you said, really being able to specifically quantify it, not just for themselves but also for the employees, that then once you provide them those tools and scripts to say, okay, how do you talk to someone who has identified themselves as a caregiver and they're now dealing with a long-term chronic care condition? How do you speak to them? How do you
Right.
show support? How do you provide healthy and appropriate boundaries as to what you want to ask them, what you do not feel is appropriate to ask them? And then I think another thing is it's really important as leaders is that we start, once there's an awareness of it, we start to normalize and start to share our own experiences. I mean, we see on news about people who are celebrities or who are leaders in the corporate world that have become family caregivers because,
Right.
their
Right.
father was diagnosed with cancer. Their mother had a stroke.
Right.
We
I've
heard about
seen a
Taylor
few.
Swift. Her and her siblings took turns, caregiving for their dad after a cardiac condition. She had the money, she could hire anyone to do it. But there's something that is special and that is unique with that close relationship that creates healing and, facilitates well-being for the person that's caregiving. That as caregivers, we, you know, immediately understand. And so we're going to help our loved ones. But maybe our employer doesn't understand that. Or, maybe the employer doesn't understand that, hey, you might be the only caregiver taking care of grandma or, your dad or even a spouse. And so, how do I support this person in a way that helps keep them feeling valued, engaged, important at work, but then provide them tools that recuperate the costs of providing those tools so that, they can be successful at caregiving and stay in the workforce and be wonderful and highly effective contributors within your organization. You can do both. You just can't do it without the proper support. And so I really love the fact that you highlighted that, you know, this is a leadership issue and not just simply a caregiver issue.
Well, I created the caregiver effect to be a new category of workforce strategy. Definitely a new category of workforce strategy because, I found they're not, aware. And definitely there are good companies out there that really do want to take care of their employees. Of course there are. Many, yes, are just not aware. And that's why, we're out here trying to do what we're doing. Educate, inform, empower. We want to help and let people know, hey, this is a solvable issue. This is a solvable issue. And that's where the last part of the framework comes in, the recover part. Once you start supporting your employees and giving them the tools that they need to be at work and be a caregiver at home, of course, they're going to really, really work with you. They're going to really, really want to work with you. In fact, your employees may advocate for your company. Say they have a friend that's a caregiver. Hey, I need another job. My job's not working with me. Well, my job does because we have great stuff for caregivers. Oh, really? I need that. We've got flex time. We've got work at home. We've got, you know, um, Tiffany Matthews, your healthcare BFF, that comes in with her new platform dedicated to her grandma, who is the reason why I do this, all of this. Um, I've formed a platform and I'm still building it for caregivers and their loved ones called Elnora's Place. It's named after my grandma. Like I said, I do business because of her and the situation she had at end of life in healthcare and my mother had with caregiving. It was very, very, very painful to watch. To this day, it still hurts. But, it was like at my mom's job, they were looking at her whenever she would leave, like she was going to Mexico every day or something. No, she was going to pick my grandmother up off the floor. No fun involved. No fun. But why did it have to be that way? She was anxious every single day walking into that place thinking she may be fired because of taking care of her mother? Are you
Right.
serious? And it's not because of employees, it's because of policy a lot of times. So if some policies can get a little flex, COVID showed us that policies can be flex, then we could do it for something as huge and enormous of an issue as caregiving. That's where companies and organizations are going to recover that money they're losing in healthcare costs, on caregiving, on time, productivity, absenteeism, presenteeism. Presenteeism is like you're there, but you're not really there. So absenteeism, of course, is attendance. And, retention is keeping your employees and keeping them happy. I promise you, if you address caregiving at your organization, employees will respond positively. They will respond positively. You will recover lost revenue and potentially, lost talent. If your talent walks out the door, how much is it going to cost you in training someone new, finding someone new, especially all of you in the C-suite? Caregiving doesn't care who you are, what color you are, how much money you have, who you love, who you worship, where you live. It doesn't matter. Caregiving affects us all. So employers, in order to stay competitive, you're going to have to do something to address it. As far as the healthcare system, they can address caregivers and families and the caregivers that work for them, that caregive all day for them, and potentially go home and do it some more. Healthcare has a unique opportunity to help caregivers too, because there needs to be more training. A hospital tried to send my grandmother home at end of life with a trach and not train any of us. That was until I had a little talk with the social worker. My
Yeah, that can
grandmother,
end
honey,
poorly.
you're not going to play with her.
Yeah.
That's how passionate I am about caregivers all together. I feel like it's my grandmother that I'm dealing with again, or watching my mother again. I don't want another family ever to feel what we felt, the powerlessness, the helplessness. Thank God I had some knowledge we could use, and I could advocate at certain points for her. Are you kidding me? I mean, they're great healthcare workers. It's the policies that are the issue. So if we can get at these policies, get employers and healthcare to look at them, to become more flexible with their policies and benefits and things, and become a more caregiver-friendly organization, using Elnora's place, of course, shameless plug, then I guarantee more people are going to look at you in the market and want to work for you. It's going to go the way we're saying it. It's just going to go that way. The stats are showing us, reports are showing us, and I want to do the work for employers. I've done the research for them. I've done the work. This is why I came up with the caregiver effect. At the intersection of caregiving, work, and healthcare, there is a lot involved with business. So I'm just hoping that employers will listen, and give things a chance. And, it doesn't have to be with me. If you want to work with someone else to establish a caregiver strategy, great, but just do it. Just do it, please. If you don't have a caregiver strategy at your place of business, retention is up in the air, turnover is up in the air, revenue is up in the air, healthcare costs are up in the air, time, attendance, productivity, they're all up in the air. And these are all revenue drivers for you. So pay attention. Caregiving is not going anywhere. So I implore and challenge employers to listen to that.
Definitely, definitely. I read in a study recently that 75% of corporate workers who are caregivers would leave their current job for better caregiver benefits if they
Wow.
had to, if they felt like it would make a difference between them being burned out at work or, and doing caregiving, or, staying healthy in caregiving and, their corporate role. So, like, workers are keenly aware of how this is affecting their lives, and they're going to start making choices. Why not, as an employer, make the choice obvious for them to stay with you, because you can provide them
Retention
with
thing.
caregiver benefits?
Right. It's a retention thing. Just as I said, retention, productivity, attendance, time, all of those things are affected by caregiving. And I think what a lot of employers are doing and businesses are doing now is they're addressing the symptoms of the problem. They're addressing retention, they're addressing burnout, but they're not doing it in the cohesive way where they're addressing the bigger, much more huge problem of caregiving. If you address that, all of those other things will be affected positively. There's just no other way for the stats to go if you address caregiving. That's why, again, I challenge all employers to look at what's going on. Wait a minute. If you've got 1,000 employees, you're already losing 5 million every year. That's a stat that needs to stop you too, along with 73% of employees reporting caregiving duties. I had to say that again. It's so important. Really, I implore every leader to stop and put someone on this. Go find out the stats about caregiving. Find out who's caregiving here. How are we going to address it? If you don't have a strategy, all those things are up in the air and they will remain that way. You're only going to recover the funds by supporting your people that are caregivers and people with healthcare complexities as well. Same thing. They're coming in and they're working for you and they need support and help in the healthcare system. That means higher healthcare costs for you. That means more time that they're off work. That means same thing, same thing. So I want to come in and support caregivers, people with complex medical conditions or, situations. All of those people need help. And we are all there for them. I know you are. I know I am. We are there for caregivers, and we want to get this message out. It's extremely important every leader listen to this. I really challenge you. And I don't care if you have 50 employees or 50,000. There are caregivers where you work and in the healthcare system. You know, they need the help, they need the support, and those employers in healthcare are uniquely positioned to help them. Not only them, there may be, retirement communities and things like that. They have older parents too. The sandwich generation didn't stop with boomers. Now Gen Z is feeling it. I have senior parents. I have a daughter with complex conditions. Here we are. Moms are caregivers by default, no matter what. So you have, and again, I want to ask, why is caregiving for a baby looked on more favorably than caregiving for a loved one? Your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa. It's the same thing. As I said, I think it's because, with the baby, it's much more joyous. Of course, new life. But when you're caregiving for someone, it may begin to signal the end of life. And many people don't want to deal with mortality, but you must. You have to. We're all going to die. So we have to be prepared and plan accordingly, just like we have to be prepared and plan accordingly for caregiving and being in the healthcare system. This is such a complex problem with depth and breadth is just insane. So every employer needs to address it. Absolutely.
Excellent points. Excellent
And with
points.
Elnora's place, I just say this really quick. With Elnora's place, I want to teach caregivers and the patients they love how to navigate healthcare, to improve patient care, and to learn to advocate in the system effectively. It's going to be expert led, and it's going to be peer supported. It's going to combat isolation for caregivers. And I'm going to be on there all the time, running my mouth, educating caregivers as much as I possibly can. I've been in healthcare and social work for a couple of decades now, so I know a little bit, and I want to tell caregivers absolutely every bit of stuff I know, everything. Hospital stays, managing conditions, dealing with a difficult diagnosis. What is caregiving? Am I a caregiver? How to get things started, documentation, patient care, all of these things that you need to know to navigate healthcare, improve patient care, and advocate effectively. So, the caregiver effect isn't just a one and done. I can be with you 2 months or 10 years. We'll go as far as any employer or healthcare system wants to.
That is wonderful. Yeah,
Thank you.
those are things that when you become a caregiver, you don't. When I became a caregiver, I had no understanding of the medical system. I had no idea how to advocate. I had to learn through trial and error. And caregivers are
Well,
willing to do it. But it helps when someone can provide you the tools and teach them to you quickly. So then you can spend more time actually getting things done and having real quality time with your loved one instead
right.
of researching how do I figure this out? What do I need to do? When someone else gives you the roadmap, it makes the journey much more easy and much more enjoyable, right?
And can I say that's what I want more than anything, especially caregivers that are dealing, with dementia and end of life. As I always say, caregivers that deal with dementia get more marshmallows in their cocoa from me. They really, really do. It's just another level. Not worse, not better, just different in caregiving. And it's you got to be super caregiver to deal with that. You really, really do. I wish. Here's one thing I wish. On a side note, I wish cancer would go to hell and take dementia with it. I really
Amen.
do.
Yep.
I really do. But when you are caregiving, you need help from everywhere. You don't even know where you need help. You just like I said, all it takes is one accident, one injury, and you're
Mm.
thrown into this. Now you got to learn the healthcare. Now you probably got to learn nursing facility care. Now you have to learn home care. Now you have to learn how's the insurance going to pay for all of that. What's mom going to need? OT, PT, this thing, that thing, home care, this. It will be overwhelming, but if you prepare a little bit at a time for what you know eventually is going to come up, you'll be better. You'll be stronger.
Yep.
You'll be you'll have more time to spend just with your loved one, as opposed to having to deal with the business of healthcare or manage what are they going to think at work. Oh my goodness, I know every day I'm leaving, because that's how my mother felt, you know and there's no caregiver that should have to feel that way. They should feel secure enough in their employment that they don't feel that way, and if they feel that secure in their employment, they won't leave.
Yep.
They won't leave. So I have the solution for you. Question is, do you want it? That's the thing. you know so again, I challenge employers and the healthcare system to come forward and support your caregivers.
I
So,
love it. I love it. So, just to be sure I have it correctly, each day of the business week next week at noon, you will be sharing a message to help employers understand the scope and depth of the problem of caregiving and why your solution works and works so well, right?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to build some awareness, like I said, of the issues and talk about the problem a little bit and definitely talk about solutions. And of course, they're mine. But yes, but they are viable solutions. And I've seen, the scope of what caregivers need after working with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of them in my social work career. I've heard their complaints, I've heard their frustrations and struggles, and I'm like, okay, how do I help them? How do I empower them? With education. Okay, that's great. But, they're already like really, really stretched economically. So I don't want to charge them. Who do I go to and deal with this problem in mass? And who can afford it? Employers. And employers, good employers, award-winning employers that are, win awards in wellness, health, benefits, engagement, employee resource groups. Those are the ones that already understand the value of their people. They're winning awards at it. So those are the ones that I want to work with. Those are the ones that I want to, hear what's going on with them. I want to hear everything that's going on at that company before I even say anything about a solution. Or, I want to find out their needs, their struggles, and everything before I even begin talking strategy or solutions or anything. You know, you have to listen first for what the needs are and then talk. So I'll be listening to companies and what they need and then offering solutions to them. Um, these are solutions that are going to help you recover lost revenue, time, and productivity. I've thought this out over a long time, and God gave me the pieces along the way. And this is going to be something that I believe can revolutionize corporate culture. I really do believe that. Address your caregivers. And again, if it's not with me, with someone, come up with a caregiving strategy. You need it, I promise you. So yeah, I'm going to be giving all that information for free next week, July 6th through 10th, every single day at noon. And they're going to be 35 minutes apiece because I'm respectful of people's time. And, just bring the problem to the forefront. Then you can just, watch me live here on my LinkedIn page or my YouTube channel, The Caregiver Effect, and just find out about the problem. Let it just jog your mind a little bit and say, hey, let's look at this, you know, and then you can contact me for help and support. So, yep, July 6th through 10th, noon every day.
I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a great week next week.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this. I really do appreciate it, Sam. And I love the fact that we're good friends. And, just talking about this and getting it out there and helping me, I really appreciate that.
And thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
bringing this important workforce issue to the forefront of what needs attention for business leaders and providing the solution that really does make a difference for employers and caregivers. That's a win-win.
And they can find it at pacelovescaregivers.com. Again, pacelovescaregivers.com. And they can see exactly what I'm talking about on my website. So I thank you again. And this was, I love this. This is not work to me. I love talking about this and trying to help caregivers. They need it so much. $1 trillion of free patient care every year. If they all stopped, we'd be up that proverbial creek without a paddle. Healthcare would collapse. They couldn't handle it. And so would Medicare and Medicaid. And home care. And nursing home care would collapse if caregivers stopped. So we need to give them their flowers now.
Yep, that is very true.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. Have a
Thank you,
wonderful day.
Sam. You too, honey. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye bye. All right. Okay.